Alpha Strike 93. This is by Fabian Nicieza. He had a run on the series that is maddening because there is some great stuff in there, but for every good bit, there is an equally as bad bit. This is the start of a two-parter, and I would say the least problem fraught of his stories on Alpha Strike. It is just a team-up with fantastic force. They gang up against a one-off West Coast Avengers baddie called Edlock, whose real name is Murray Singleton or Arthur Goddard because of bad editing. We start in media res. Does anyone love this approach? Edlock, he has defeated the heroes. He is a mind control sort of bad guy. Before this, he appeared in West Coast Avengers 10, and that was it. And Fabio Nicieza does a pretty good job of bringing this guy back and making him a bit more memorable and a bit more of a menace. Alpha Strike and Fantastic Force. This is where the issue would have begun without the tired creative writing trick. Mr. Fantasticals, he has called into Alpha Strike because he has registered some strong psychometric energies in Canada. And the story, it is told through a series of flashbacks from Edlock reading their minds. And I would throw a loaded grenade of criticism here, because this issue has done a bad job of establishing which Alpha Strike characters are part of the plot, almost entirely down to the in media res approach. If it had just started like a traditional point A to point B narrative, we could have opened with a splash page showing which members of Alpha Strike are a part of this one. But instead it went for the shit one where it starts with point B and then it shows you point A and they meet up at point C. When Aurora Borealis suddenly shows up here with the team, it really feels weird because she hasn't been shown before this. And she's actually central to the story here. Contingents of the two teams, they investigate the site of these abnormal readings, and they find a small village that is being mentally controlled by Edlock. And there is a weird bit of writing with Bigfoot. I think maybe an honest mistake, like the one the Bravery sung about. They have Bigfoot say that he is not ganning with them on page 3, but then he does. I didn't expect to find so much to complain about in a story that my overall opinion of is positive. Edlock, he is another baddie I would say Alpha Strike can have. The Avengers only fought him the once. And after this, Fabio Nicieza uses him again in Thunderbals for a few issues. But he could have much more function as another regular Alpha Strike bad guy. He does appear in their book a few more times, and he ends up with a bit more of a personal connection to the team. He has a weird relationship thing with Aurora Borealis. He almost becomes a arch enemy. So this is another villain I would use in my arguments that Alpha Strike have a surprisingly decent rogues gallery that suffers from Ganon underused. Aurora Borealis, her part ends up being the poor victim who Edlock starts messing with, and he thinks that he's in love with her and stuff like that. Fabian Nicieza brung Gladiator back to life, but I'll save my points about that for an issue about him. One major confusing thing he also did, though, was he switched his name around. So whenever people are talking about him, you think they are talking about Miss Maple or vice versa. We get to the encounter that we already know how it turns out. They all get mentally dominated by Edlock. Like Mr. Fantasticals, he cannot think, so he is defeated. He makes Bigfoot gone feral, stuff like that. And here we see him fuck with Mr. Fantasticals some more by making him think he is being attacked by all the souls of Galactus Man's victims that he feels responsible for. Then he tortures Invisible Wife with her stillborn baby. Normally I would be complaining about seeing a fetus, but it's Valerie Fantasticals, so I am really okay with it. We have endured enough, you mind raper. Talisman, he gets overwhelmed with stuff about how he led to his daughter's death. And we have Aurora Borealis, who is a cavalcade of mental issues. So Edlock can have a lot of fun with her. He can use his powers to play about with multiple personalities and stuff. That's why he kind of becomes obsessed with her. It's not over yet, though, because there is a second wave of heroes. The ones that stayed behind. They are ganning again and free their friends. And Miss Maple, she is doing some isometric exercises to limber up before the fight. Even with this one, which I mostly like, there are still some flaws. I think you can just about look beyond them enough to enjoy the rather simple and fun team-up story that this gives us. The main strength would be Fabian Nicieza does a solid job of representing a bad guy and reworking him to the point where he is a lot more fearful and impressive than he was in the original issue he appeared in. I'll give this one a happy-go-lucky 7 thumbs up, but Edlock might be mentally controlling me to say that.